law and order with boots on the ground. Let me be clear, I support boots on the ground in Chicago. President Trump was right when he said sometimes you need force to bring peace. Chicago's not safe, and peace doesn't just come from hope, it comes from action. And Trump has proven time after time when he says something, he does it. That's why I stand with him on this. Some people don't like the idea of the National Guard or federal support, but ask the mothers who lost sons. Would you rather see uniforms in the streets or blood on the sidewalk? Sometimes strength is the only language chaos understands. Trump is a man of his word. That's rare. In politics, he said he'd fight, and he fought. He said he delivered, and he delivered. He moves like a general, gives the order, action follows. Now, I'm not Trump, I'll never be him, but maybe I can be my own version, the next generation, a man who doesn't just comment, but actually gives intelligence, ideas, exposure that government listens to. I've already seen it. Things I said, things I exposed. Later, action was taken. Now, I'm not Trump, I'll never be him, but maybe I can be my own version, the next generation, a man who doesn't just comment, but actually gives intelligence, ideas, exposure that government listens to. I've already seen it. Things I've said, things I exposed on the podcast, later action was taken. That's bigger than just talk. That's real influence. Am I a journalist, a political thinker, a future leader? Maybe all three. I don't protest in the streets. I don't storm capitals. I use words. I use truth. My journalism is here from America, exposing socialism, communism, and all the lies they try to spread. I know it's dangerous. I know politics is dirty. Look what happened to MLK. Look what almost happened to Trump. Speaking the truth puts a target on your back. But I believe God has me here for a reason, and if my role is to dismantle lies, expose corruption, and put intelligence out there that actually shapes policy, then that's my calling, the bigger mission. This podcast isn't just about Chicago. It's about truth versus lies, order versus chaos, faith versus fear. My role is to speak, to expose, to dismantle, so that America sees clearly, and maybe one day, if God wills, I could stand not just behind a microphone, but on a stage where laws are made. But for now, I'm here speaking truth, exposing lies, standing with strength, and praying for peace.
Chicago is at a tipping point. Crime, violence, abandoned neighborhoods. The city has been struggling for decades, and now federal strategies are being proposed to address what local leaders have been unable or unwilling to fix. President Trump has laid out a clear plan. Federal law enforcement intervention, National Guard deployment, and immigration enforcement operations. His stated goal is straightforward. Take it over with the federal government, running it like it's supposed to be run. This mirrors the approach in Washington, D.C., where federal action reportedly led to over 2,000 arrests and a measurable reduction in violent crime. At the same time, DHS has launched Operation Midway Blitz in Chicago, targeting illegal immigrants involved in criminal activity. The administration frames this as a way to protect victims and reduce violence, linking some violent crime directly to immigration-related criminal activity. Trump has used strong rhetoric to call Chicago a very dangerous place and the murder capital, emphasizing his perceived obligation to protect Americans. Now, contrast this with local leadership. Mayor Brandon Johnson and Governor Pritzker have resisted federal assistance, insisting that local efforts are sufficient. But here's the problem. Chicago's crime persists, and the police force is stretched dangerously thin. Last year, the city had over 463 homicides, thousands of shootings, and neighborhoods where residents are terrified to leave their homes at night. Let's get realistic. National Guard troops alone won't fix systemic issues. But when combined with federal law enforcement, local cooperation, and community investment, they can stabilize neighborhoods, reduce violence, and give residents breathing room to rebuild their lives. Chicago isn't just numbers. Over Labor Day weekend alone, at least 35 people were shot and 5 killed. Neighborhoods like Inglewood are still operating open-air drug markets with armed guards protecting drugs, cash, and guns. Families are living in fear. Kids are growing up in cycles of violence with little hope of escape. So what can realistically be done? 1. Federal and local coordination, National Guard deployment, federal law enforcement task forces, and local police working together to target the dangerous areas. Quick response times, intelligence sharing, and targeted operations. 2. Immigration enforcement paired with community protection. DHS operations like Midway Blitz must focus on criminals without punishing innocent residents. The goal is safer streets, not fear or harassment. 3. Neighborhood stabilization. Abandoned buildings reclaimed, converted into housing, youth centers, or business incubators. Community policing programs funded to employ residents to protect their own streets. 4. Economic and educational opportunities. Schools must teach practical skills, trades, coding, financial literacy, while after-school programs and mentorship offer real alternatives to gang life. Small business grants and support programs provide pathways out of poverty. 5. Faith and leadership involvement. Communities must be mobilized, religious and civic leaders involved, and public pressure applied to hold officials accountable. Without moral and civic engagement, systemic change is impossible. The stakes are high. Chicago is a test case for the effectiveness of federal intervention, the consequences of political pride, and the necessity of action over rhetoric. The city's residents cannot wait while politicians debate pride and jurisdiction. Every day delayed means more lives lost, more children exposed to violence, and more neighborhoods abandoned to crime. Chicago is more than statistics. It's people, families, and futures at risk. Federal intervention, community programs, economic investment, and school reform. These aren't optional, they're essential. The question is whether local leaders and the community will accept help and work together to save the city before it's too late. Faith, truth, and decisive action must guide us. Chicago can be fixed, but only if leaders stop debating politics and start implementing solutions. This is the reality. This is the blueprint. And it starts now with awareness, pressure, and action.